Hey everyone, welcome to part 24 of this Baldur's Gate 3 trophy and achievement walkthrough. We just finished up the Gauntlet of Shar, and we saved the Night Song inside the Shadowfell, and now we're going to go back to camp. We're going to do a long rest so that we can have a scene with Raphael.
Do you know what happens when a devil is struck down on this charming plane of existence? It returns to the hells, to the very point where it last stood before venturing to whichever devil-forsaken plane it died on. In the case of our friend Yrgir, the Orthon you so handily dispatched in the Temple of Shar, he manifested in my House of Hope. He returned to me chastened but intact, his wounds healed, his body restored. He thought I would dismember him. But he has his uses, so instead, I am re-educating him.
We delivered the devil. Now I want what I'm owed. We had a deal.
Indeed we did. I discovered all there is to know about those scars of yours. It's a rather grim tale, even for my tastes.
Stop stalling.
As you wish. Brace yourself, Astarion. We're about to unveil your destiny. Carved into that ivory skin of yours is one part of an infernal contract between the archdevil Mephistopheles and your former master, Cazador Zar. In full, the contract states that Cazador will be granted knowledge of an infernal ritual so vile it has never been performed. The rite of profane ascension. It promises to be a marvelous ceremony, very elaborate, incredibly ancient, and entirely diabolical. If he completes the rite, he will become a new kind of being, the Vampire Ascendant. All the strengths of his vampiric form will be amplified, and alongside them he will enjoy the luxuries of the living. The arousals and appetites of man will return to him, and unlike Astarion, he will have no need of a parasite to protect him from the sun. But the ritual has its price, as all worthwhile things do. Lord Cazador will need to sacrifice a number of souls, including all of his vampiric spawn, if he is to ascend. Imagine how he felt then, when one of those precious spawns simply disappeared into thin air. The only missing ingredient is Astarion. You are the final piece he requires to complete the ritual. Your scars bind you to it. Your soul will set off a very wave of death, bringing Cazador his twisted life. And that, my tragic and toothsome friend, is that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have business elsewhere.
Cazador is a piece of shit. We're going to stop him.
Do you think it's so simple?
There's a way to become a living vampire. That must mean a lot to you.
The idea definitely has appeal. I could get rid of the worm in my head and still walk in the sun. I'd finally be free of the hunger. And if I'm the key to this deal of Cazador's, perhaps I can turn this to my advantage. I need to take the fight to him, and I need you to help me.
Of course I'll help. We'll hunt him down and kill him.
Thank you.
And with that, let's finish taking our long rest so that we can get all of our health and our spell slots back. So let's choose to go to bed, we'll use some camp supplies, and then finish the rest. Okay, now we're going to prepare for the fight ahead of us inside the Moonrise Towers. If you've been following along this guide so far, you should have an item called the Iron Flask. It's something that we got out of a chest after dealing with some Zentarine merchants being ambushed by a bunch of gnolls. If you don't have it, that's okay. You don't need it for this next fight, but it does help to soften up the enemy a little bit and weaken them, which is to our advantage. So with the Iron Flask in hand, we're going to head back toward the main Act 2 area, and then we're going to go south because we need to start infiltrating the Moonrise Towers. There is the Moonrise Towers waypoint pretty close by. Once you fast travel there, just go through the nearby shadows. You'll cross this path that has a lot of corpses here, so run by all of them, and when you get to the other side, you'll have a cutscene with Jaheira.
Unshackled from shadows, she will rise in moonlit glory and carve a path of brightness to the accursed one's second death. So saith the wise Alondo. That beacon of angelic wrath has taken the fight to Ketheric on the rooftop. In the first line of defense are dead. But storming the tower won't be easy, and if we wait too long, Ketheric will gather his strength and retaliate. For now, though, he's on the back foot for the first time since he returned from the grave. This is it. The spearhead moment. You brought us this far. So how shall we proceed?
We move in and secure the ground floor first. Cut off all exits.
A sound strategy. Once it's done, me and my harpers will hold the ground floor while you hunt down the general himself. Floric left some of her flaming fist. They'll scout the prisons and the barracks below to ensure we're not taken by surprise. Say the word, and we're off.
Actually, I'd rather you join my party, Jaheira.
I'm touched, but I'm already spoken for.
Ketheric is a formidable foe. I have need of a formidable ally.
Very well. Side by side we'll stand, as we'll rip true souls from a false god. As good a prophecy as any. At the ready, harpers! In this light, there will be victory. In this light, we will avenge the fallen! The time has come. Ketheric will taste of death at last.
If you made those dialogue choices that I made, then you will be able to control Jaheira in the upcoming fight, so she really acts like a fifth party member for us. Now what you want to do is proceed up the stairs, but don't go through the doors just yet. Instead, if you have that Iron Flask, now is the time to go into your inventory and then select to throw it. When the Iron Flask lands, it's going to summon a very powerful enemy called a Spectator that is hostile toward whatever's around it. So we're just going to aim it right down here at Disciple Zrel, and we're going to toss it down there, and we're going to watch what happens. So out goes the flask, and here comes the Spectator. Now everything inside there is technically in combat now. It all has its initiative set up, and that Spectator is going to go around and just start blasting people around here. Now everyone else is going to be attacking it as well, so it will eventually die, and that's okay, but it's going to do a lot of damage to the enemies around this area. It's going to cause them to have lower health, and they're going to use up some of their spell slots and everything, so we get an advantage going into this fight. And we just have to sit here for a minute watching the battle ensue. It did run off to the side there, but that's okay. You can still see what's happening in the side part there. So eventually it's going to go down, and then we can kind of join the fight at any point in this time. So you don't necessarily have to wait until the Spectator's dead. You can join the fight too and kind of ambush them from here. So now I'm switching over to Astarion, where we can sneak ahead a little bit, and then we can start to attack them them from the shadows as well. So let's go ahead and get this fight started with our main party here, and then we'll be able to fight all these enemies with the help of all the Harpers. Jaheira is going to be here with us. There are tons of enemies on the ground floor, as well as some up in the rafters. Don't forget about those archers up there. So we're going to be kind of evenly matched in terms of numbers thanks to all the help on our side, but we shouldn't have too much of a problem here. So starting off, we're going to have all the enemies kind of run toward us, and what we need to do is kind of create a choke point for them so that we can do a lot of damage to them coming up, and if they want to walk close to us, we'll do damage, or we can try to keep them far away from us and fight them on our terms. If you were to rush down there amidst all of them, you're probably not going to survive very well. I'm not going to show this entire fight, but I am going to point out a couple of key things that you'll want to keep in mind doing this fight, because it is very possible to get overwhelmed here. I think that there's a couple high priority targets for you to consider. One is definitely Disciple Z'rell. She's surrounded down here by a couple of these mirror images. There's also these Adepts. They are very strong magicians, and Big Mama Mig right in front of us, who can do lots of damage in a melee fight. So we're going to try to take her out as quick as possible. I just did a quick bite with Astarion so that we can get an advantage, and then we can start to do some serious melee damage to her right away, and we should be able to take her out pretty quickly. And then what we need to do is to take out the other enemies that are nearby to us. The other ones are a little ways off, and we're going to make it so that they'll have a hard time getting up to us in just a moment as soon as we get to Jaheira's turn. So just take a minute to go through and fight anything that's up close to you at first, and then we're going to switch on over to Jaheira, who we can control thanks to our dialogue options. I would definitely recommend using Ice Storm the very first turn that you have with her, because she can then cause a large blizzard all in this area, and that's going to choke the enemies off so that they can't run to us without running over the ice. So we can do a lot of damage to a bunch of enemies in a close area there, and then we can continue fighting on the melee front with anything that might still be alive up close. So after that, we're going to now switch over to Lae'zel, who, as you know by this point, is an absolute powerhouse in the melee combat zone. So let's go ahead and start to clean out some of the enemies nearby. It's now Shadowheart's turn, so let's move her close to some of the enemies here. We'll just jump over a lot of the corpses, and then we're going to use our good friend, the Spirit Guardians, to create an aura that anything that runs close to us is going to take a lot of damage. So we've blocked the enemy off with the Ice Storm down below. If any of them are brave enough to try to come close to us, we're going to destroy them with our Spirit Guardian aura. So let's just get her close to the front lines here, and anything running up is going to take a lot of damage. So now we're going to have a bunch of the enemies' turns. They can either choose to run away from us or try to run close of us. Disciple Z'rell is kind of a pain because she can use Black Hole to draw everyone in close together, which for this circumstance is actually pretty good, because then anything that's running close to any of our characters is going to have to run into where Shadowheart is. But it does pair very nicely with one of the enemy's attacks, in that they can use Hunger of Hadar to cast a very large black cloud over us and make sure that all of us are going to be blinded. So be careful of that combo if you're Black Hole together, and then the Hunger of Hadar to make everyone around you blind. Well, now all of our Harper friends are having their turn, and the enemy will get a turn once again. So here you can see the Adept is going to run forward. He'll have to try to run around the ice, so he can't get too close to us, and that kind of keeps him out of range of doing a lot of bad stuff to us. So that's just one more example of why having the Ice Storm blocking the path is a good thing for us. Skipping ahead a little bit, I'm going to have Jaheira turn into her wild-shaped panther form so that she can turn invisible. We definitely want to keep her alive in this fight, so being able to prowl around in an invisible way is going to be really good for us. We're keeping her toward the back lines here. We don't want her to engage with anything. Her role really is done at this point. Well, here you can see the combo that I mentioned earlier, having the Black Hole come up, and then this Adept is going to use Hunger of Hadar to blind everyone around. It then foolishly wanted to run and jump into the Hunger of Hadar blackness right next to all of our melee characters, so we're just going to take him out, and that's going to end the spell so all of us can see once again. I'm now going to just keep advancing toward the enemy, taking out the enemies on the left side, close to where that spectator went down, and then it's just a matter of cleaning up the other enemies in this area. So I'm going to end the fight now, and then we'll be able to continue on. So not a tough battle necessarily, it just takes some time.
Parasite in that corpse, brimming with potent magic.
After the fight, we're going to loot Disciple Zarel's body. There's a couple scrolls for you. There's going to be a hand axe +1. I also grabbed the Absolute's Protector, that's a new shield, as well as the Mind Flayer Parasite Specimen. So once you have all of that good stuff, then we're just going to continue on from here. I would definitely recommend doing at least a short rest at this point just to get our health back, and then we're going to continue on from this point. Let's go through the big doors here, and then we're going to go up the staircase. You can just go up the stairs on the left, that's fine. I think the right side gets to the same place, but I'm going up the left side, and then I'm going to continue up the stairs from here. When you go around, you'll be able to kind of circle around, and then when you get to the top, be a little bit careful here before you go down this hallway. There are some enemies waiting to ambush us just ahead here, so what I'm going to do is actually move on over to Jaheira in Panther form. She's prowling around, she's invisible, and she's able to get close to the enemy and do a nice attack on them before they even know that the attack is coming. So let's walk around here, and you can see there's a couple weak enemies and then a stronger one in the back. This is Radija. We can then use Pounce to do a nice attack on Radija before they can even know that it's happening. So here we go with one Pounce attack, and that's going to start the fight off in our favor. So a nice attack there. Now let's switch over to Astarion. I did separate him from the rest of the party here, so he's able to sneak around, and even if he's spotted, that's okay. We can still do a nice sneak attack against the enemy. These are Necromites. They have very little health, so they're very easy to take out. And let's just continue on here. We can switch to another one of our party members, and they are also still hiding at this point, so we're able to do another very quick attack against them. So using the monk, we can just rush in and attack the enemy. As long as you tell them to attack before they're spotted, they're able to finish the attack before the combat really begins and the initiative matters. So we announced an attack, we got the attack off, and now we can just continue on and obliterate the rest of the enemies in this area. If you do it properly, you should be able to get through this whole fight without taking any damage yourself. So now that that's done, I am going to keep Astarion separate from the rest of the group for right now. So I'm just going to have the main characters, Shadowheart and Lae'zel, along with Jaheira, go through the ornate door, and Astarion will stay behind for right now so that we can use his sneak attacks a little bit later on. So let's go through this ornate door and continue on.
What have you done? What have you done to me?
You're immortal again, Thorm. I've come to finish you.
Impossible. You are a thrall, a slave. You serve the Absolute. You serve me. Bow, you dog. Bow! The prism. You've had it all this time, you worm. You will bow before me. And if you will not bow, you will break.
How good it is to see you again, Ketheric. At last you found a godmaster that suits you, it seems.
Halen, the thief. You stole Isabel from me, and now you think you'll take my life in the bargain?
You dare to speak her name? After your crimes innumerable, you would evoke her before me!
Enough! This ends, here and now. At last,
He will crumble at the power of your touch. Give him all you have. The gods fight at our side!
Well, first things first, we're going to jump over to Astarion and we're going to bring him up into the fight area.
Let's keep to the shadows.
Now we're going to sneak around and we'll be able to kill 2 of the enemies on his first turn, which is a nice thing for us to be able to do. Now there are numerous enemies scattered out throughout this area. There's going to be 4 along the right side and the 4 along the left side, and then there's going to be 1 straight ahead. Ketheric himself and Ketheric will have a dog companion with him. All in all, that makes 11, but 8 of them are very easy to kill. They're just these little necromites here. So let's use a sneak attack with Astarion before he enters combat. And now that he enters combat, he should have enough initiative to be able to act again right away. We'll do another sneak attack, and that's 2 enemies down. Then what we want to do is just to go off to the side here, and we're just going to hide away again until it's his turn so that we can get another sneak attack in a moment. So now he's hiding. Let's go back over to our monk, and we're going to go the other direction. We're going to start taking out the enemies on the right-hand side. They're not very strong, but it does give us a little bit of experience just to be able to take these enemies out. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind is you do not want to get too close to Ketheric himself, especially early on, because he can do quite a bit of damage to you. So take out a couple enemies and then retreat back a little bit. So we're just going to head on back and then stay out of his range. Now going over to Shadowheart, we're going to hop on down. And we're going kind of close to the middle, still not close enough for Ketheric to attack us. I did really hope that I could get a sunbeam off on these enemies to do a lot of damage to them. Unfortunately, I just couldn't quite get to it. You can't attack up high like this. It seems a little ledge blocks the beam. So instead what we're going to do is go and use the Spirit Guardians that will just create the aura around us. And if we use the Radiant one, we have a very strong attack against the undead creatures around here. Now what you'll see is that the enemies, some of them will try to spawn in new enemies for us. They're going to use Incubate Death to create more of those enemies, but if they do it close by to where Shadowheart is, the new enemy will instantly die. So it is a good idea to keep Shadowheart close to the front lines. If she's the closest one to the enemy, then when they try to use the Incubate Death on her, because she is the closest, it will cause the enemy to instantly die. Well, now it's Lae'zel's turn. She can very easily take out this enemy. This is Susdera, and that is one of the 3 toughest enemies in this fight. So a big enemy has now been taken care of, and we can move on from here. I considered trying to get a little bit closer here to these enemies, but ultimately I'm going to hang back just a little bit. I think it's better to stay out of range of where Ketheric can run to, and that is just for a little bit of our self-preservation. So now it's Jaheira's turn. We're going to move a little bit closer, but I'm just going to make her prowl to stay invisible. We don't really need her to do anything in this fight, so we're just going to move her up and keep her alive at this point. Now Ketheric gets his turn. He's going to hop down here by us, and luckily he doesn't see where Jaheira is. She's just going to be hanging out invisibly right next to him, and he's completely oblivious to her location. And now Squire the dog is going to come down here, try to attack Shadowheart. What you'll see is something that has now been fixed in patch 6. We try to use Shield Blow, but it does absolutely nothing, and that, like I said, has been fixed in patch 6, where now there actually is that check to see are we going to knock it prone. And in fact, the same thing happened right there with Ketheric. He tried to use his own shield bash and it did absolutely nothing. So if you're watching this, just know that it was recorded prior to patch 6, and that should now be fixed. Now it's our time to go and kill the last of the Necromites over on this side, and with all 4 of them gone, we don't have to worry about them anymore. We can now try to get into a better position to finish off the enemies around here. We're going to take Astarion on this side. He does still have the advantage against the Necromites on this end, so I'm just going to shoot one of them and finish him off. Very easy, and then I just have to go back into hiding. So Astarion, we don't really need him so much anymore for this fight, but he's done a good job of eliminating some of those minor enemies. And now we're going to rush in with Lae'zel, and we're going to finish off this final Necromite over on this side. So all the extra enemies and all the ads have been eliminated. We've collected all of the experience from them, and now it's just a matter of taking out Ketheric. But you don't actually have to kill him, you just have to get his health low enough that a cutscene will play out and he will escape and run away from the battle. So whatever you want to do, just go ahead and finish up the fight here. I'm just going to move Lae'zel up, although it's not really necessary, and then we will run over and have the monk finish off Ketheric, and that will conclude the fight.
Enough. My lord beckons me. You must return to your prison, and my daughter must be reclaimed.
Your daughter? Isabel.
Sure as she. This has only begun.
That tentacle was colossal. How can such a thing be possible?
That thing came from below. We need to find out where it took Ketheric.
Alright, that was a really good fight. We did get an inspiration point for Lae'zel for the devastation of the Absolute. And now what we need to do is to get Astarion back with the rest of us, and we can continue on. If you really want to, there is one treasure chest that is right behind where Ketheric was, up on the top part of the area. So I'll show you what's in that, although it's not really necessary. But if you want to, then just run up to the top of the stairs here, back behind the skull, and you're going to find a large chest. This is a heavy chest. Go ahead and pick the lock on it. Not too difficult. It is a 18, but with all the bonuses that we already have from our different proficiencies, we're able to get through it pretty easily. And inside this chest you'll find the Ring of Exalted Marrow. You get a couple interesting abilities when you equip this ring, so let's check it out. First off, you get Exhort the Risen. You can command the undead to do a variety of things, as well as the Ghoulish Touch, a level 1 necromancy spell. So go ahead and equip that on a character if you want to, and then we're going to head down to where Jaheira is, over by where that tentacle came out of the ground. And now let's talk to Jaheira.
The General will call that a tactical retreat, I'm sure. But you have him on the run. That thing he summoned was illithid. Follow it below and find him, before he has a chance to subdue the Night Song again.
You and your Harpers aren't coming?
Better they stay here, and hold the tower should Ketheric's army catch wind of our assault. But if you have room for one lone soldier, I would face Ketheric by your side.
Do you know what to expect when we find him?
Theory and supposition, none of which will help us in the fight to come. Ketheric must die, and the Absolute with him. We will work out the details as they rear their ugly heads.
Now, if you have an extra spot on your team, you can say, "Join me then," and she will.
You have numbers enough already, I think. You'll want a small force, if you are to finish this quickly. Good hunting.
So it is possible to add Jaheira to your team, but it's not really necessary. I'm going to continue on with the characters that I have right now. We're going to go over to this hollow tower, and we're going to choose to use it. When you do, you get a prompt asking if you want to leap in after Ketheric. We're going to choose to do that.
The hole yawns back at you, impossibly wide. A single tentacle burrowed through stone.
This is an Illithid colony. This must be where they harvest the tadpoles. We're close to the source of the infections.
All of this sitting beneath Moonrise. For how long? And how deep does it go?
We are now in the Mind Flayer colony. There's a few very important things that we want to do here. First off, let's go forward till we get to this membrane. It has 6 HP, so we just have to attack it once to get on through.
Tread carefully. We are very close to the source of the Absolute now. That telepathic storm has become a tempest.
We have a side quest down here to rescue someone. Mizora gave us that quest, and it is directly related to the loophole trophy. So at this red orb, turn left and then head down until you get to this blue or green lantern, and then turn toward the left and go through the flesh-wrought door. When you get inside the door, run forward and you'll be in the tadpoling center.
Mind flayers and civilians, side by side. This must be where they infect and transform those they kidnap.
Go into the back room and then interact with the Mind Flayer pod in the back.
Brine pools,
That pod.
but empty of
Is that
tadpoles.
Mizora inside?
Unusual. Harvesting all the larvae indicates they are getting ready for something big.
By Grazit's cock, it's about time you came.
Mizora, you are the devil you sent Will to rescue?
Thought you'd have figured it out by now. Now, enough sniffing around and get me out of this thing.
Do it, and I'll let Will off his leash. A devil always keeps her promises.
Your eyes turn to the control panel next to the pod. It has 2 devices marked with Illithid symbols. The controls are open to your tadpole's command, to your authority.
Let's examine the device on the left.
You can make no sense of the symbol.
If you pass that Arcana check, you'll know that it says Annihilate. Now, we'll examine the device on the
Button
right.
symbol means nothing to you.
Well, the device on the right is the one that we use to free her, and although it's tempting to kill her, that does not break the contract with Will, so we need to go ahead and release her by connecting our mind to the device on the right and activate it.
Good work. I'd give you a gold star, but I'm fresh out. As for the pact... Clause Z, Section 13. If the Soulbinder consents to separation, she will release the Soul Bearer from all obligation within 6 months.
6 months until he's free? You little rat.
Ignorant thing. It's always the terms and conditions that get you.
Shrug. 6 months isn't that long of a wait.
Right. I'm out of here. I need a long bath. I'll leave you to your very serious business. But don't you fret. If you survive this place, I'll find you. The pup will be needing me. Count on it. Oh, and ask Will how we met. I've loosened his tongue. It's real cracker of a tale. Ta-ta.
Well, that was very, very important for the loophole trophy, but we're not quite done in the tadpoling center. Let's head back toward the front of the room and then immediately turn toward the left side and interact with this neural apparatus.
Your tadpole forms a telepathic connection with the device, and a chorus of static energy fills your mind. Every mind flayer in the room calls out hungrily from its pod, seeking release and sustenance. But there are others in the pods, those not yet infected, not yet elithid, terrified, desperate to escape. The device is open to your tadpole's command, to your authority.
Geich machinery. Cold as the sea of night, alien as time to the astral plane. Avert your eyes, close your mind.
We're going to choose to release because the tiefling Zevlor is in one of those pods, and if we purge them, he's going to die, and that will void a trophy. Unfortunately, what happens is we are then ambushed by a whole lot of mind flayers and all the intellect devourers in this area. Luckily, these guys aren't too terrible. They don't have a ton of health, and we can finish them off pretty easily. So let's just go ahead and fight these mind flayers off. We do get help from the other characters that we freed as well, those who have not yet turned illithid, and they will be our allies in this fight. Just make sure that Zevlor does not die in this fight because we need to keep him alive. There's not much strategy that goes into this fight because we've got a lot of characters on our side and the enemy's pretty weak, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the end of the fight.
Hells. I didn't think I was going to make it. Thank you. I owe you an explanation. Much more than that. But first, please, the others, the ambush. Tell me they survived.
Now, if you'll recall, a lot of the tieflings hate Zevlor because he seemed to do something that caused a lot of them to die. So say whatever you want to. I'm going to say they found refuge, but what in the hell's happened out there, Zevlor?
You've heard some of it, I'm sure. That I froze, or broke, or some other lie that is kinder than the truth. We were ambushed by cultists, yes. And then I heard her. Their false god, whispering promises in my mind. I would be a paladin again, with a god's purpose, a god's power. Everything I needed to protect my people. And all the while, the cult tortured them. They fought and ran and died around me, while I imagined myself their savior. By the time I regained my senses, it was too late. I did not just surrender to the Absolute. For a moment, I welcomed it.
If you wanted power, you never needed a god, only to live up to your ideal.
I fell short of that mark in Avernus, and even so, it was not so bad as this. I won't make excuses. I can't make amends, but I know something of what you came to do. I want to help, if you'll let me. Ketheric is below. He thinks you're no longer a menace. Descend and show him how wrong he is. If there are any more survivors to be found, I'll find them and lead them out of this place.
We're going to choose to keep Zevlor away from fighting as much as possible, so we're going to say, find your own people. They need you.
They have you. Go, my friend. Please, let me do this much.
That completes the Find Zevlor quest, which is important for making sure that all the tieflings stay alive in Act 2, and now we're just going to run around to loot the bodies and continue on. When you're ready to go, we're going to exit out the south side of the room. So get to the path and then just run through the flesh rot door on the south and continue on down until you get to the end of this path. When you get to the end, turn toward the right. There's going to be a little ramp to go up. And then as soon as you get to the top, turn toward the left. There's going to be another flesh rot door. Go through it, and in this room, we're going to find a very old friend.
The stench. I wonder how many pilgrimages to Moonrise ended down here.
You can see the green dot on the minimap showing us that an ally is here inside this cage. So if you go to open it, then you'll probably get seen and a scene ensues.
No touch. It is wrong. Other.
Persuasion. You're right, it is other. So let me take it away. We get a skill check looking for an 18, not very difficult with all of our bonuses. So let's go ahead and roll it and then continue on.
You sing wrong song too. in wrong voice. Sing other song together then, but away from here.
Okay, we get the morgue cage key. Let's open up the cage.
We are free! Thank you, friend. But perils remain, near and far. Better to stay together. You and us, we will remain with you. Call us, and we will be at your side.
Do you remember us from the very first part of the series, back when we were on the Nautiloid? Kind of an interesting that now we can summon us to be our friend whenever we want to. So all you have to do is open up your action menu, and you can see that conjure us is one of the different choices that we can make. So let's go ahead and conjure him. Okay, so now we have another ally to help us down here when we have a little bit of fighting to do. Well, the next thing that we want to do is continue on toward the main point of this place, and that is to find where Ketheric is and defeat him. So we're going to now go east, and we're going to go down this ramp and through another flesh rot door into the next area. Be warned that the Necrotic laboratory has a lot of enemies in it, and we're going to have to fight them. So make sure that you're prepared for it before the battle commences, and there's going to be a lot of these winged horrors and other undead things coming at us, and we're going to fight them all off. So it is quite a long fight. I would recommend kind of staying close together with your team, and that way you can have Shadowheart with her guardians being able to provide a little bit of a barrier for you so that they run into you and take damage, and then you can finish them off pretty easily. You can see that they don't have a whole lot of health. These winged horrors are one of the strongest things down here, and they only have 22 health, so just a couple attacks should be enough to take them down. And there is going to be another enemy toward the back. He's kind of the leader of all of these guys, and if you remember the enemies that we fought in the Gauntlet of Shar, where there were the orbs that we had to destroy because otherwise enemies would come back to life right next to those. That's kind of how that magician enemy works. He's the leader back there, and he's able to resummon some of the fallen creatures in this area. So it does just make this a little bit longer of a fight, but it's not a very difficult fight in that all these things are weak down here. So let's just skip ahead a little bit, and then you can see what it looks like at the other end of the fight. Alright, I skipped about 10 minutes of footage here of just fighting this one battle. Here is the Death Shepherd. This is kind of that boss guy that I was talking about that can reanimate things around here. He's not very difficult. He does have kind of a large health pool though, so we're just going to fight him off, and then once he's dead, we'll continue on. As I mentioned, he is able to bring back his dead friends, so no rest for the wicked on Reconstituted Duelist. He brought back one of his friends, but they're very weak. We can finish them off no problem. We're using us now. He can use things like Synaptic Discharge to attack enemies at range. It's actually pretty strong, so us is a good ally to have. The Death Shepherd doesn't have a lot of good loot or anything on him, so we're just going to continue on from here, and we're going to now go out the north door. Once we get through here, we're going to go through the Flesh Rot door and continue on into the next area. You can hunt down all these little intellect devourers in the area if you just want a little bit more experience, but otherwise we're going to continue through the right hand side here, and we're going to go now through the eastern passage. Keep running along down this path, and there's going to, at the bottom part here, be one of those rest and rejuvenation chambers. So go over here to this side, and we can use this restoration to gain all of our health back, and then we'll continue on over toward this neural apparatus in the middle. This acts as an elevator or a lift to take us down to the bottom part.
Is anyone else's tadpole squirming around a little more than usual?
It's almost like it's excited by something, drawn to it.
The final boss of Act 2 is just along the path here, so once you're ready, then go forward, interact with the Flesh Rot door, you'll get a little scene, and then confirm that you want to continue on.
The
longer a background murmur. The presence in your mind builds to a roar.
We've found it. The Absolute is behind this door.
If you're all ready, then choose to enter.
You said it was under control.
It isn't you I answer to, Gortash.
Oh, the general voice. Is this where we salute?
Salute, yes. With cleavers through his blood-starved flesh. How it crawls with failure, like flies on lick-wet carrion.
You forget yourself, Orin. I have played my part.
You've built an army for our masters, true enough. But what of the astral prison? A rogue true soul flaunting it under your nose all this time, and you ran from him.
Sure that they would follow and deliver it into my hands here. If you would cease these distractions.
The distractions have been yours, Ketheric. Perhaps we never should have dug your daughter up. So you haven't lost your edge, but you're still not as sharp as Orin, I wager. The Slayer against the Undying One. That'd be fun to see.
His crypt breath sings to my sinews again. But he must lead the murder march to Baldur's grave.
If the weapon is truly in your grasp, Ketheric, might I suggest closing your fist? Orin and I can wait for you no longer. The plan proceeds. We're going to the city, and we expect you to follow. Army and the weapon in tow.
The Edict of Bane.
The Lash of Thorm!
Testament of Myrkul!
An elder brain. One of the cruelest and most powerful creatures in existence. Enslaved by mere mortals.
There we are. It wouldn't do to fight in front of our guest. Behold, Duke Ravengard. The Absolute.
Helm preserve us.
You wag your word flap in vain, olderling. Once the worm holds the whip, your shredded flesh will serve us.
Now, it's really time we were going. We will empty this place and begin the march. You may catch up with the army once you've retrieved the weapon. And Ketheric, do try not to sulk. You're supposed to be the fearsome general come to conquer the city. And I am the hero who will save it.
It is time, faithful ones. March on Baldur's Gate. We go to prepare the way.
Having Shadowheart in the party gets us another inspiration point called a piece of 3. So with that in place, then we're going to walk forward, and that will trigger a cutscene and a fight.
There you are, as predicted. What is it, I wonder, that draws one toward death like a moth to light? You could have run away, absconded with the prism. The one thing that could prevent me from fulfilling my destiny. But the lure of one's destiny is irresistible, isn't it? Perhaps you hope to learn your place in history before you are erased from it. A bright flash of clarity before the snuffing out.
I'm here to snuff out this whole evil plot, and you along with it.
Finer champions than you have tried and failed. But perhaps they lacked the fear that drives you. Your freedom hanging in the balance. Let us speak plainly. My Lord Myrkul gave me the one thing I desired, the one thing no other god could grant me. My daughter's life returned. Her heart beating once more. For that, he asked that I serve as his chosen. Join Orin and Gortash to grow the cult of the Absolute, and then take control of it. He's never had a more devoted follower. I have fought great wars before, in the service of other gods and other powers. But for Myrkul, I would condemn all of Faerun to death. You are all that stands between me and my destiny. And you have brought the prism here. I will kill you now. And then I will raise you as my servant.
You are planning on betraying your allies?
Yes. Join the army of the dead, true soul. Witness Lord Myrkul's glory.
And now we're in a fight against Ketheric. You can see the tooltip in the top left corner about freeing the Night Song. What we want to do is to take our monk and run as fast as we can to free Dame Aelin from the soul cage. If you have the monk, you're able to use a Step of Wind dash. That will get you a ton of movement, and we can basically get all the way up to her in just one turn. So let's go ahead and do that. If you don't have quite that much movement, that's okay. As long as you get her within the first couple turns, you should be good. And once we can get up to her, we'll free her, and then she becomes a very powerful ally. She can do some very strong attacks, which are very beneficial for our team and our offense in general. So what we want to do now is just to pick off Ketheric. There are going to be a lot of other enemies around here. You can see at the top there's Intellect Devourers as well as some of those Necromites. What we need to be aware of is taking out those Necromites before they become a problem in Phase 2. There's actually a trophy related to killing the boss of the second phase of this fight before he can consume any Necromites. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish off Ketheric. He starts the fight with lower health because we already did damage to him when we were up at the top of the Moonrise Towers, and we're just going to get to him as quick as possible using Misty Step, and then we're going to have Lae'zel just finish him off. He does counterattack with Shield Bash, so you might have to watch out for that if you're playing this post-patch 6 when that's supposedly been fixed. And we're going to finish him off and move into the second phase of the fight.
What a fool you are. You cannot kill me. I am eternal. Myrkul, Lord of Bones, I am here. I am ready. I am yours.
You said it, Shadowheart. This guy gives off some serious Dark Souls vibes. Well, he's going to sit up here, and we have a couple things to keep in mind. There's some Necromites along the side here. We definitely need to kill those before they run over and allow themselves to be devoured by Myrkul. If we can defeat Myrkul before he consumes any of those Necromites, we'll get a trophy or achievement for that. So it is a good idea to save the game, even mid-fight like this, so that if anything goes wrong, you can always reload it from this point. Now what we're going to do is to start attacking the enemies. There are two main ways that you might want to think about this. Either trying to eliminate all of those Necromites first so that none of them can be consumed, or just focus fire on Myrkul and do as much damage as you can. So I'm going to have Lae'zel just really focus on Myrkul, and then the other characters are going to do what they can to mitigate the threat of any of those Necromites getting close. Here we have a bunch of the Intellect Devourers running up. You can see what happens when they get close. We just start slaughtering them, so that's a good thing to have happen for us. There are some definitely nasty attacks that can happen from Myrkul, so you just have to be prepared that who's ever up close is probably going to be taking a lot of a beating at this point. Skipping ahead a little bit, there is a Mind Flayer in this area too, who will probably come down and attack whoever went to go free the Night Song here. He's a little bit of a pain because he can stun us, and that's just going to prevent us from really attacking the next turn, but we'll be able to get through that just fine. You also want to start moving your characters down toward the middle. The way that I like to get through this without any of those Necromites getting close to the boss is by moving Shadowheart down and actually forming a bit of a barrier for them. And unfortunately, you can't really hit with Sunbeam so well in this area, so I will just have to forget about that and instead move her close enough so that we can use our normal Spirit Guardians to actually bar the enemy from getting close. If they run too close to us, then they're going to pretty much instantly die, which is really good for us. So keep moving her down as much as possible. We need to get between them and the little ladder that goes up to where Myrkul is to physically block them off. Moving Astarion down now, we can use a sneak attack to fight these enemies off. So either attack them, the Necromites if you can see them, otherwise go straight for Myrkul. Jumping ahead a little bit, I am now controlling us. I'm going to use Synaptic Discharge. It is the long-range attack that can do quite a bit of damage. It's got a low chance of hitting, especially from the low ground, but I do hit for 24 damage, and you can see that the Necromites have received a condition called Myrkul's Call. He's going to now be calling those Necromites over to him so that they can replenish his health. We do not want that to happen, so make sure that you are in position to stop them from getting close to Myrkul if you're going for that trophy. So here's the different Necromites. They're going to start dashing down and making a run for the ladder so that they can get close to Myrkul, but we're going to get Shadowheart into position to stop them. So that one got pretty close. He's only a couple meters away from that ladder. Luckily, they aren't able to get there in just their first turn, so we do have a bit of an opportunity to get in their way and to stop them. Okay, so here's Shadowheart. What we want to do is to jump as far as we can, so get her to the very edge where she can go and jump.
I know what to do.
Just to her right is the ladder that those Necromites need, and we're going to now put up our Spirit Guardian aura so that anything that runs close to us or to that ladder is going to get hit by the Spirit Guardians, and they're going to die. So now we actually want them to run closer to us so we can take them out. You can see that there are some things that are now incubating around us. Those will turn into Necromites if we allow them to incubate for long enough. So make sure that you take out those things before they have a chance to hatch. Well, the Mind Flayer is now gone. That's kind of a big threat to us, and we can move on down and then attack these skeletal invulkers. Those are the things that will turn into more necromites, so if you have a free attack, make sure you're taking those things out. I'm going to leave the monk over in that area for now to take out anything that might be spawning on that side. Everyone else is going to focus on those necromites and the different skeletal invulkers that are popping up all over the place now. If there are no necromites on the map, then obviously Myrkul can't consume them, so that's going to be the strategy for this part of the fight. All the while, Lae'zel is going to keep attacking the Apostle of Myrkul and doing as much damage as possible every turn. Unfortunately, being frightened means we're not doing a great job of hitting, but misses aside, it's fine. We're just going to keep up the pressure and do as much damage as possible every turn. Skipping ahead again, you can see the strategy of setting up Shadowheart here because all of the necromites that run up to her will hit those spirit guardians and they will die. So it's a great way of eliminating those enemies without much effort at all. Now you can really see the strength that Dame Aelin has. She's able to do a lot of attacks every turn and really help out with obliterating all of Myrkul's health. Now we're jumping back over to our monk. You'll see that he's getting surrounded by those different skeletal invulkers, so let's go ahead and take them out. It's not very difficult to eliminate these, so we'll actually take out all three of them on this side of the map before they have a chance to break open. And now that they're eliminated, I'll just come back down toward the middle to provide a little bit more support. Okay, it's Lae'zel's turn, and she's going to keep up the fight, doing as much damage as possible. You can see that the Apostle of Myrkul's health is getting low. Unfortunately, so is Lae'zel's health, and I don't have a whole lot that I can do to stop that at this point. So it's Myrkul's turn. We do get frightened, and then with a follow-up Reaper Scythe, Lae'zel is going to be knocked out of the fight. But that's okay, she's served her purpose pretty well, and we are able to carry on without her. Unfortunately, our companion Us is not able to pick her up, but I can bring him up top here just to either act as a meat shield and maybe get a little bit of damage. Try going for that Synaptic Discharge again, only a 40% chance of hitting, so it's not happening, but that's okay, we'll move on. And now it's Dame Aelin's turn to bring the pain, and we'll do a ton of damage to Myrkul, bring him down to only 1 HP remaining. So it's pretty easy to finish him off at this point. I will have Shadowheart use a healing word spell on Lae'zel just to pick her up. You don't need to actually run to them. You can heal them from afar to pick them up. And now we're just going to use one of our magical attacks to finish the fight against Myrkul, and that will be that. Defeating Myrkul without getting any necromites consumed does get us the No Free Lunches trophy.
Impossible. Death cannot take me. I am its master. My lord, hear me. Nothing. I am forsaken. You have no idea what you've done. Isabel.
Now, we pick our way toward our fates. Unleashed!
You have my sword. My fealty. Do what you must. Then we fly this foul place.
And with that, Lae'zel gets an inspiration point called
I
Familicide.
could sleep for a 10-day after that. Ketheric's Netherstone. It's in his armor. Take it.
Well, let's do as she says. So we're going to climb up the arterial mesh and then go over to his body and loot it.
In death, the body is cooling, but energy radiates from the stone.
Remarkable. Truly. And now the picture comes together. The Absolute is neither god nor man. It is the Elder Brain you saw, held here by those three against its will. The crown it wears controls it, and these stones control the crown. It has been dominated. To master an Elder Brain, to subdue it. Our enemies are formidable.
How is it you're able to leave the Astral Prism now?
A temporary reprieve, but a welcome one. With a brain on its way to the city, its influence here is weakened.
What are these stones?
The crown's markings suggest it was forged in Netheril, an ancient empire whose mastery over magic rivaled that of the gods. It is a crown of domination. The stones were taken from its crest. They are Netherstones, imbued with the ability to control the wearer of the crown. The crown's Netherese magic must be the true source of the parasite's abilities. This must be what elevates their potential. And it must be the reason nobody could heal you. If the crown can do this to the parasite, I dare not imagine what it is doing to the brain.
Do you know who our enemies are?
One of them I know, Lord Enver Gortash, an arms dealer and a slaver. A worshipper of Bane, the god of tyranny. The other is a mystery to me. But the way she spoke, it is most likely she follows Baal, god of murder. Ketheric was a follower of Myrkul, which means the Absolute is a front for the gods of death, and our enemies are the chosen of the Dead Three.
Chosen of the Dead Three?
Bane, Baal, and Myrkul. The Tyrant, the Assassin, and the Necromancer. They are known to pick from their most devout followers a chosen, granting them incredible powers. Each one alone would be a formidable enemy. But working together and controlling an Elder Brain, I dare not imagine what they might achieve.
What do we do now?
We prepare for the fight of our lives, and the lives of everyone in Faerun. The army of the Absolute is marching on Baldur's Gate. Within the city, an Elder Brain, brimming with power, ready to turn everyone within its reach into mind flayers. All it needs is an order the Death God's chosen are on the cusp of giving. We must wrest control of the brain from the chosen before that happens. We must take their stones. Our chances of success are slim, but we must not fail. If we fail, everything ends. I will be your shield, but you must be the sword. And when the chance comes to strike, you must take it, for there may only be one chance.
Alright, it looks like everyone leveled up and looting the corpse of Ketheric Thorm. There's Ketheric's Warhammer that we can pick up. He's also got the Reaper's Embrace armor, Ketheric's shield. There's a crumpled note that says, Papa, I love you, love from Iz. And finally, a supply pack in case we want to do a long rest. Okay, so we've collected everything there. Now there's going to be a portal just to the side of this area. So we're going to run around and then interact with the portal on the opposite side of this circle. And here's the portal to the surface. Let's use it and head back.
I've been thinking on all that you learned below. If you've got your breath, we ought to discuss our next steps.
Okay, we're now back at the Moonrise Towers amidst all of our allies. This is where I'm going to end the video, but we will continue right on from here in part 25. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. All those things really help me out, and I do appreciate it. And I'll see you very soon for part 25. Until then, thanks for watching, and have a good day.